Hello, everybody. This is Joe Boston with the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group and also the Real Estate for Life podcast. And today I have a wonderful guest, Ed Bridgman. He's going to be talking to us about the RV space and how we can actually get involved in doing that. And why I'm so excited is because, as all of you know, real estate's not getting any cheaper. But we have to find ways of making it successful. And how we do that is through what we call revenue models. And so at the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group, one of the things we have done is we've created an opportunity circle that revolves around revenue generating opportunities in real estate. And so, what are those? So, like today, we're going to be talking about RVs and how you, as a real estate professional and investor, can get involved. But there's also different mechanisms in or processes in real estate. For example, self storage. There's mobile homes. There's multiple things. There's franchises. But today we're going to be talking about RVs. And so, welcome, Ed. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Joe. This is Ed Bridgman.
So, why I'm excited about discussing this with you is, I'm a single family guy, and I think I've told you that. And so, as we grow up in real estate, in the real estate profession, typically what happens, even, when you're just entering the space, it's built on single family residences, right? I mean, so for me, I didn't know any different. And one of the things that we share is that we are Air Force veterans. So thank you for your service. There's only one Go Blue,
Thank
but
you.
I wish I would have kept a lot of those, Ed, when I was actually there. No one talked to us about real estate, did they? It was just getting
No,
promoted. No one. It was just mutual funds, but I wish they would have done that because we would have probably bought more land and more residences. But one of the things when I grew up in this industry was, based on single family residential rentals. And back then, and I'm only saying 15 to 20 years ago, interest rates, it was kind of on the tail end of the collapse of, the mortgage industry and all the interest rates, and people, were actually bailing out their houses and they didn't want to do real estate. But when you were able to have the inventory along with the favorable interest rates, it wasn't a bad deal to do single family rentals, right?
right.
And
Actually, I
so,
went into duplexes and fourplexes. I always wanted to have some income from that site, whether I was living in one side and renting out the other side, or if somebody was transitioning in or out. So I had several fourplexes and duplexes for about 30 years.
oh, wow. So, did you like that? Did you enjoy that
Yes,
model?
I found it very profitable. I definitely enjoyed having fourplexes and duplexes, and over the years, probably had, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 locations between Texas and Florida. Uh, yeah, that was very profitable for me. What I didn't like about the duplex and fourplex was that I would rent to a very nice young lady. Maybe she had a child and she was working and she was making her bills and everything was great. And then she would get a boyfriend, and she'd move
Oh,
this
no.
boyfriend in without me knowing about it, and then they would have a fight, and then she'd call me in the middle of the night and say that he'd kicked in the door and he'd punched holes in the walls, and could I come over and change the locks? So I would come over and change the locks, and then within a week I'd see his car there again. And this guy's not on my lease. I don't know who he is. I have no way of communicating with him, but she'll make up with him a week later and give him a key, and we'd be right back in the same situation. And I'd have to evict both of them at that point. So the RV industry allowed me to rent asphalt roads and concrete pads, and people bring their own doors and they bring their own toilets. And if their toilet's clogged up, they don't call me. And if they get in a fight and they punch a hole in their wall, They don't call me.
That's wonderful. So I guess on that theme, how did you transition from, 1 to 4 family residences to RV? Who introduced you to that model?
Well, I've been a Six Sigma consultant now for about 30 years, traveling all over the country, helping companies exceed their customers' expectations while reducing waste and improving their profit margin. So I've been doing that for a long time. And in 2010, in April of 2010, there was this great big oil spill out in the Gulf of Mexico. BP Oil Company was fined $24 billion with a B. And that money was supposed to be spent along 200 miles of the Gulf Coast. And it was supposed to be spent in the tourism industry. And I said, you know what? I need to be in the tourism industry along the Gulf Coast. So I spent the next 2 years looking for exactly the right piece of property, researching what tourism, hospitality industries were taking off. And I discovered that the RV industry is growing with double-digit figures. It's a 100-year-old industry that's growing in double-digit figures, and that growth is being spearheaded by younger people. The average age of an RV owner is between 32 and 33 years of age. 65% of RV owners are millennials. And it's also being fueled by a more diversified group, races and genders, more diversified younger group. I said, man, that's the industry that I want to be in.
Nice. So did you have a mentor or did you just kind of figure it out yourself? How did that happen?
Well, like I said, I was traveling in this area in the southeast along the Gulf Coast looking for land for 2 years, and I had a little pop-up camper myself, and I found that I had to make reservations months in advance because every RV park in the area was full all the time. It was always full. You couldn't just stop in overnight, they wouldn't have a place for you. And a couple of places that I stayed, they were expanding or they were buying the property near them so that they could expand. And I said, I got to look into this more. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, anytime you have high demand, right? And low supply, that's a perfect storm. Yeah, on the single family, that's perfect. I think what happened also on the single family side is a lot of people got complacent because, as I said, once those prices came down, a lot of real estate investors, were acquiring properties at a favorable price. And over that next, let's say, 10 years, they kind of held steady, did the same thing, but weren't really looking at other opportunities like yourself, right? So I think the masses, when they're being presented with real estate, is trending that way. But now today, why it's I think more important to look at things like you're doing with RVs is because if you look at a single family residence, and I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area, the average price point is in the mid $200,000 range, and actually new builds are exceeding 300,000. And so, with a rental model, you still only can really receive about $2,000 to $3,000 a month in rentals and rental, from a tenant, and the numbers just don't work. So now you have to go to the
Exactly.
tertiary markets to make that work, right? So if you're in the DFW area, it's really tough. But when you're doing a revenue model, you even with short-term rentals, if you look at single family residences, they've converted to a revenue model, which with Airbnb, like that, those type of processes. But with the RV space, it's already there. I mean, it's similar to kind of a hybrid hotel model, right? Because you can do dailies, you can do extended stays, you can do a myriad of things. And on your property, what I like is that you can also have other revenue generators. uh, that you'll briefly talk about, but at the meeting on the 21st. But it's like its own community that you have, right? And you're the king,
Yep.
the community, but you can actually increase, decrease your rates to improve your profitability or success. So, really quickly, we do have a couple of slides that you've provided for us. And the one that's actually showing now is the developing RV destination for tomorrow. Can you briefly talk about that?
Well, we're going to talk about it more on the 21st, but to say that people have evolved over the years is a redundant statement. It doesn't make any difference if you believe in Irwinism or what your beliefs are that way. It's undeniable that people evolve over time. And what I'm trying to show in this slide is that where people live evolves over time from log cabins and teepees to mansions and huge homes, and it's just a common fact. Nobody's going to argue that people are downsizing now, and where you're seeing a lot less 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom homes, and moving their equity onto wheels. Whether you're a baby boomer and your kids are grown and have left the nest, an empty nester, or whether you're a generation X or a millennial, you're putting more and more people are putting their equity on wheels as the average American moves every 4.2 years. And everybody knows that in the first 4 years of purchasing a brick and mortar home, you're putting all your money on interest. So if you try to sell it 4 years later, it's very likely that you won't have very much equity. Whereas if you purchase an RV, which is you can qualify for a loan for an RV. If you can qualify for a loan for a car, you can qualify for a loan for an RV. So you can get into it easier. You can get into it with less money, and you can take it with you whenever you move. So that's what this first slide is about. The second slide is just who I am. I'm one of the original 5 co-authors of Six Sigma. And if you don't know what Six Sigma is, I suggest that you take a moment and type it into your Google search. There are probably about 18,000 hits. It's all about reducing waste, exceeding your customers' expectations, creating a process that improves your profitability. And then the next slide actually touches on what you were talking about earlier, is the average price of a brick and mortar home in America in 2020 was $300,000. In 2021, that had risen to $371,000. And we all know what interest rates have been doing in the last couple of years. So for a first-time homeowner to get into a brick and mortar home, it's getting increasingly more difficult, while it's getting easier to get into an RV. And these millennials love the experience of being able to work from their home, in this case, an RV, and then during their breaks or at the end of their meetings, they can step outside and experience a walking trail, a place to go fishing, a playground, the amenities that the RV community, the RV destination will provide is very attractive.
And what you and I talked about recently is typically now when you have an RV location, there's an anchor store close by. So you're not missing out on anything because that community is typically near all the shopping, the highways that you'd ever want, similarly to a brick and mortar anyway. So, I mean, now you've got all that access available to you. Whereas before, some of the stigmas I think along with those type of models was is that you're out in an isolated area. But to your point, I mean, some of these, I mean, the RVs are nicer than most people's homes. I mean, and then
Well, they can be. Yeah,
they can be, right?
yeah,
I mean,
we have RVs. Visit Homestead RV Community, which is the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. We have people come here with heated floors, marble countertops, king size beds, a lot of Class A motor coaches like what's on the screen now start at over $1 million. We're going to touch on this a lot more on the 21st. I hope everybody will tune in on the 21st. But there are actually 5 different RV destination types. I don't necessarily want to go into too much detail on it in this abbreviated episode. But Joe, you've talked a couple of times about communities. That's only one of the 5 destination types. And yes, communities provide the same type of amenities that a brick and mortar community would provide. They're blacktop accessible, obviously high speed internet, close to a grocery store, in a good school district. They're quiet, they're safe, same types of things that people would look for in a brick and mortar community. They're not, just real briefly, there's also parks. Parks is the one RV destination you do not want to invest in. They're actually going down in value right now. But there's campgrounds that are near amenities at like Yellowstone or Disney World or Mount Rushmore, where people want to visit that amenity, but they want to camp nearby. And some of those can be quite remote if you're wanting to camp out in the mountains, and your amenity is a stream or a waterfall that you want to go visit that's 10 miles from town. Yeah, those are campgrounds. And then everybody's familiar with the resorts that have come up in the last 20 years that offer a lot of amenities right there on the property. And then the last one is a hybrid.
Okay. That's very interesting. You mentioned about parks. I mean, and you're going to share more about that on the 21st of October. But most people, when you think about even mobile homes, I mean, you think about RVs is the park. And that's why I'm excited to hear about these different types and how people can get involved in participating with you. Now, I know you do have training. We're going to talk about some of those things at the meeting as well, right? So you do have training, you have resources that people can actually participate in. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You can go to my website, eob-consulting.com. And the dash, you don't spell out DASH. It's EOB in a straight line between the B and the C, eob-consulting.com. And you can also check out homervc.com, the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. But I actually have up on another screen that Sun Communities, they have 584 locations across 38 states. They're a pretty large player in this industry. They have manufactured home communities as well as RV communities. And for the quarter ending in September 30th, 2021, their manufactured home communities had an NOI of 2.6%, while their RV communities had an NOI of 30.6%. So
Wow.
15 times more with RVs than they had with manufactured homes. In the 9 months that ended September 30th, 2021, they ended up with manufactured home NOI of being 4.3, and the RV was 32.8. And the generation of revenue for the manufactured home during that same period was 5.8%, while for RVs was 27.4%. And the expense in that same period for manufactured home was 10.2, while it was only 20 for your RVs. So your expenses are more than, but even if they're twice as much, you're gaining 5 times more revenue. So your NOI is much, much greater in the RV industry than it is in the manufactured home industry. And in most states, it's much, much easier to remove someone that you find undesirable for not picking up after their dog or not paying their bill.
Right. And you have that mix, right? So dailies, extended stays. I mean, the other revenue generators that you're going to talk about on the 21st, right? So
You
really
can
with
rent golf carts. You can we have a store, in-house store. We sell everything from fishing poles and fishing lures to t-shirts to RV necessities. hoses and lines and stuff like that. But you can also rent golf carts. You can rent bicycles. There are, I don't know, someone was boasting at one of the conferences I was at that they had 27 different revenue streams at their RV park. We have a laundry facility that is completely hands free. I don't hardly ever go in the laundry room. The machines are somebody else's machines. They lease, they bring them here, they maintain them. If they break down, they're here within a few hours to repair them, and all they do is write me a check every month, and the check from my laundry facility pays for my water bill for the entire community. So, and I don't do
That's
anything with
wonderful. And I think that's one of the things that was eye-opening to me when I was speaking with you is the evolution of what happens on the site, meaning the technological advances. You mentioned, because a lot of us that are in the real estate space, one of the things that we struggle with is the labor versus investment. And I think we're going to talk about that too, is we don't have a lot of available revenue streams. When you're just talking about one single family house, I mean, it's 100% occupied or 100% vacant. And so I like the revenue opportunities that you can actually put in place because then that offsets your expenses, right? So that's what you mentioned. I think that's a beautiful thing. Well, Ed, not to dampen anyone's spirits because I don't want you to share everything today. But on the 21st of October at 11 o'clock a.m., we will be hosting you at the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we highlighted, but go in depth about how people could get involved with working with us and you in the RV space. And I'm really excited about that because as we all evolve in the real estate investment arena, we want to get bigger, right? And I think as you showed in the evolution, is it's taking you from maybe a single wholesaling to single family rental to owner finance, then to maybe doing a subdivision and building to then owning a business. And this is where we are with you. I think this is where kind of like almost at the mountaintop, right? And so I'm
absolutely.
excited to have you on the 21st. And we're going to highlight this, event. And hopefully we'll be doing this regularly so that people can tune in and find out how to get involved more and maybe in their area, correct? And learn
Absolutely.
about how this works.
We design RV destinations all over the country.
So that's great. Well, okay, everybody. Well, you heard it here. We're going to have Ed Bridgman at the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group on the 21st of October. You can either tune in on Zoom, and it is a paid event, so we want you to know that, or you can attend in person, which we're going to actually have food if you're in the DFW area. We're going to have a light lunch for you to participate. So thank you, Ed, and we will definitely be seeing you on the 21st. And then also, we're going to be hopefully working with Ed on different tips and tricks in the RV space that you can actually use. I mean, if you're wanting to do this as a profession.
I'm looking
So,
forward to it.
all right. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.